My wife said she needed distance to rediscover who she was without me around. I respected her wish, packed a single bag, and left quietly. Months later, she reached out when independence felt heavier than she had ever imagined. I need you to leave. Those 4 words hung in the air between us like a guillotine waiting to drop. I stood there in our kitchen, coffee mug halfway to my lips, trying to process what my wife had just said. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. I'm 34 years old, married for 8 years to a woman I thought I knew better than anyone in the world. Apparently, I was wrong. What do you mean, leave? I asked, setting the mug down carefully on the counter. My hands weren't shaking yet, but they would be soon. She looked at me with those green eyes that used to light up when I walked into a room. Now they just looked tired, distant. I mean, I need space, she said, wrapping her cardigan tighter around herself like armor. I need to figure out who I am without you constantly around. The words hit me like physical blows. Without you constantly around. As if my presence in our home, in our marriage, was some kind of burden she'd been carrying. How long have you been feeling this way? I managed to ask. She looked away, staring out the window at our backyard where we'd planned to build a deck last summer. We never got around to it. A while, she admitted. Maybe a year. Maybe longer. A year. She'd been unhappy for a year, and I'd been completely oblivious. Or maybe I hadn't wanted to see it. Is there someone else? The question came out before I could stop it. No, she said quickly, and I believed her. That much, at least, I could still read in her face. This isn't about another person. This is about me. About us. About how I don't know where I end and you begin anymore. I wanted to argue, to tell her that wasn't how marriage worked, that we were supposed to be a team. But something in her expression stopped me. She looked desperate, trapped, and I realized that any words I said right now would only tighten the cage she felt she was in. Okay, I heard myself say. Her eyes widened slightly, like she'd been prepared for a fight and my agreement had thrown her off balance. Okay, she repeated. How long do you need? She bit her lip, a habit she had when she was nervous. I don't know. A few months, maybe. I just need to breathe. I nodded slowly, feeling like I was watching this conversation happen to someone else. I'll pack a bag. You don't have to leave right now, she said, and there was something almost guilty in her voice. Take a few days to figure out where you'll go. No, I said quietly. If you need space, you need space. I'm not going to drag this out. I walked past her, out of the kitchen, up the stairs to our bedroom. The bedroom where we'd made love just 3 nights ago. Had she been thinking about wanting me gone even then? I pulled my old duffel bag from the closet and started packing. A week's worth of clothes, toiletries, my laptop and charger. She appeared in the doorway, watching me. Where will you go? She asked. Hotel for now, I said without looking at her. Then I'll figure something out. What about work? I worked from home 3 days a week as a software consultant. The other 2 days, I went into the office downtown. I'll manage. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. She stepped into the room, and I could smell her perfume. The one I'd bought her for her birthday last year. I'm sorry, she whispered. I zipped up the bag and finally looked at her. Really looked at her. She was 32, still as beautiful as the day I'd met her at a friend's barbecue 9 years ago. But there was something different in her face now. A hardness that hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had, and I just refused to see it. Don't be sorry, I said. If this is what you need, then it's what you need. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. She didn't move out of the way immediately, and for a second we were standing so close I could feel the warmth radiating from her body. I do love you, she said, her voice breaking slightly. I know, I replied. That's not really the problem though, is it? I moved past her, down the stairs, through the living room filled with furniture we'd picked out together, past the photos on the wall of our wedding day and our honeymoon in Greece. My hand was on the front door when she called out. Will you call me? Let me know you're okay. I looked back at her standing at the top of the stairs. If that's what you want. I do. Then I will. And I walked out. The door closed behind me with a soft click that sounded like the end of something. I sat in my car for a long moment, my hands gripping the steering wheel, before I finally started the engine. I didn't look back at the house. If I had, I might have seen her watching from the bedroom window. But I didn't look back. The first hotel I found was a mid-range chain off the highway. The room smelled like cleaning products and had art on the walls that was aggressively inoffensive. I dropped my bag on the bed and sat down in the chair by the window. My phone buzzed. A text from my buddy Chris, asking if I wanted to grab drinks on Friday. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Can't this week. Rain check. He sent back a thumbs up emoji. I wondered if I should tell him what had just happened, but I couldn't find the words. How do you explain that your wife asked you to leave and you just did? That you packed a single bag and walked out of your own house without a fight? My phone buzzed again. This time it was her. Did you find a place? Yeah. Hotel off Route 9. Okay. Good. I waited to see if she'd say anything else. She didn't. I set my phone face down on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling. The silence in the hotel room was oppressive. At home, there was always some kind of noise. Her music playing while she cooked. The TV on in the background. The sound of her moving through the rooms. A presence I'd grown so accustomed to I barely noticed it anymore. Now there was nothing. Just the hum of the air conditioning and the occasional rumble of a truck on the highway. I must have fallen asleep at some point because I woke up to my phone ringing. It was my boss, checking in about a project deadline. I assured him everything was on track, hung up, and realized it was already past noon. I'd slept for almost 14 hours. The next few days blurred together. I worked from the hotel room, taking calls and video meetings while sitting at the tiny desk wedged between the bed and the wall. I ate takeout. I went to the gym in the hotel basement and ran on the treadmill until my legs burned. Anything to avoid thinking too much. On day 5, my brother called. Hey man, haven't heard from you in a while. Everything good? I considered lying. Instead, I told him the truth. Not really. My wife asked me to leave. Needed space to find herself or something. There was a long pause. You're kidding. Wish I was. Where are you staying? I told him about the hotel. He made a sound of disapproval. That's not sustainable. Look, I've got a buddy with a furnished apartment above his garage. He's been trying to rent it out. Month to month. Want me to ask? Yeah, I said. That'd be good. 2 days later, I was moving my single duffel bag into a small studio apartment with exposed brick walls and windows that looked out over someone's garden. It was quiet, clean, impersonal enough that it didn't feel like home, but comfortable enough that I could breathe. The landlord was a guy named Mr. Peterson, probably in his 60s, who lived in the main house with his wife. Utilities included, he said, handing me the key. Trash goes out on Tuesdays. No loud parties, but you don't look like the type. I'm not, I assured him. Going through something? He asked, his eyes kind. I must have looked startled because he chuckled. 30 years as a marriage counselor before I retired. You've got the look. Separated, I said. Maybe temporary. We'll see. He nodded like he'd heard it 1,000 times before. Give yourself time, he said. And don't make any big decisions for at least 6 months. That's free advice. I thanked him and carried my bag upstairs. The apartment was small but well designed. A bed in one corner, a tiny kitchen along one wall, a couch and TV in what passed for a living area, and a bathroom that was just big enough to turn around in. I unpacked my bag. It took about 10 minutes. Looking at my clothes hanging in the small closet, my toiletries lined up on the bathroom shelf, I felt a strange sense of clarity. This was everything I actually needed. Everything else, all the stuff in the house, was just stuff. I called my wife that evening. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, she said softly. Hey, just wanted to let you know I found a place. Month-to-month rental. That's good. I'm glad you're not in a hotel anymore. An awkward silence stretched between us. How are you? She asked finally. I'm okay. You? It's weird. The house feels empty. I almost said that she was the one who wanted it empty, but I bit my tongue. Yeah, I bet. Are you eating? Taking care of yourself? The concern in her voice felt both genuine and ironic. I am. Don't worry about me. I can't help it. Another silence. I should go, I said. My dinner's getting cold. It wasn't, but I needed to get off the phone. Okay, talk soon. Sure. I hung up and stared at my phone for a long time. The weeks started to pass with a strange rhythm. Work filled my days. I threw myself into projects, volunteered for extra assignments, stayed late on calls with clients in different time zones. My evenings were quieter. I started cooking again, something I'd barely done in the last few years. She had always handled dinner, claiming she enjoyed it. I'd let her, happy to avoid the responsibility. Now, standing in my tiny kitchen, following recipes on my phone, I found something almost meditative about it. I ran every morning, not in the hotel gym anymore, but outside, through the neighborhood streets, pushing myself harder than I had in years. My body started to change. Leaner, stronger. I hadn't realized how much I'd let myself go. My brother checked in regularly. You doing okay? Yeah, actually. Better than I expected. Heard from her. Texts here and there. Nothing substantial. You think about dating? Not even remotely. He laughed. Give it time. You're a catch, man. Don't forget that. I wasn't thinking about dating. I was thinking about everything else. About how I'd spent 8 years building a life with someone, and how easily it had all come apart. About the small ways I'd maybe stopped trying. The evenings I'd spent on my laptop instead of talking to her. The times I'd said, sure, whatever you want, instead of actually engaging with decisions about our life together. The way I'd assumed everything was fine because I loved her, and that should be enough. But love isn't enough if you're not actually present. And I was starting to realize I hadn't been present for a long time. I'd been there physically, sure, but mentally, emotionally, I'd been coasting, comfortable, taking her for granted. Mr. Peterson caught me one morning as I was heading out for my run. Coffee, he offered, holding up a thermos. I accepted and sat with him on his porch. How long you been married? He asked. 8 years. Together for 9. He nodded thoughtfully. That's right around when things get interesting. Interesting. The honeymoon phase is long gone. You've settled into routines. You start to wonder if this is all there is. He took a sip of his coffee. Some people panic. Think the grass is greener. Some people dig in and do the work. Which one am I? I asked. You're the one who left when she asked. That's either wisdom or avoidance. Time will tell which. I thought about that a lot over the next few weeks. Was I being wise, giving her the space she needed? Or was I avoiding a fight I should have had? Should I have insisted we talk it through, go to counseling, work on whatever was broken? But something in me knew that wouldn't have worked. Not then. Not when she'd looked at me with such desperation in her eyes. 2 months in, I got a text from her late one night. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about that trip we took to Vermont. Remember that and where it rained the whole weekend? I remembered. We'd been stuck inside for 3 days, playing board games and reading books by the fireplace. It had been perfect. I remember. I texted back. Why are you thinking about that? I don't know. I just miss when things were simple. Things were never simple. We just didn't care about the complicated parts yet. She didn't respond for a while. Then, maybe you're right. Another pause. I miss you. My finger hovered over the keyboard. There were 1,000 things I could say. I miss you too. Then come home. Why did you push me away if you miss me? Instead, I wrote, I miss you too, but I think you needed this. Did you need this? It was a good question. One I've been asking myself. I don't know, but I think maybe I did. It was true. Living alone, taking care of myself, being responsible for my own happiness instead of assuming it would come from being with her. It was teaching me things I'd never learned. That's fair, she texted. Good night. Good night. I lay in bed afterward, staring at my phone. Part of me wanted to call her, to hear her voice. But I didn't. Mr. Peterson's advice echoed in my head. Don't make any big decisions for at least 6 months. I was only 2 months in. The 3rd month brought a shift. She stopped texting as much. When I called to check in every couple of weeks, she sounded busy, distracted. I started taking a pottery class, she told me during one call. That's great, I said, and meant it. Yeah, it's fun. Gives me something to do with my hands. Make anything good yet? She laughed, and the sound was so familiar it hurt. Mostly lumpy bowls. But I'm improving. I'd like to see them sometime. A pause. Yeah, maybe. I didn't push it. I was taking a photography class myself, something I'd always wanted to try. Every Saturday morning, I'd join a small group in a community center classroom, learning about aperture and shutter speed and composition. I wasn't great at it, but I enjoyed the challenge. The focus required to frame a shot perfectly, the way you had to really see things to capture them well. One Saturday, the instructor had us photograph emptiness. I spent an hour walking around the neighborhood, looking for empty spaces. An abandoned swing set. A vacant lot. A bus stop with no one waiting. When I reviewed the photos later, I realized I'd been photographing my own life. The empty spaces I'd been learning to inhabit. Month 4 arrived with autumn colors and cooling temperatures. I'd been separated from my wife for almost 1/3 of a year. The initial shock had worn off. I was settled into a routine that felt sustainable. Work was going well. I'd lost 15 pounds and could run a 5K without stopping. My apartment felt less like a temporary shelter and more like a space that was mine. I'd even bought a plant. It was still alive, which felt like an achievement. Chris finally convinced me to meet him for drinks one Friday evening. We sat at a bar downtown, craft beers in hand. You look good, man, he said. Different. Different how? I don't know. Lighter. Like you're not carrying something heavy anymore. I considered that. Maybe I'm not. Heard from her. Not much lately. She's doing her thing. I'm doing mine. You think you'll get back together? I took a long drink of my beer. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure we should. Chris raised his eyebrows. That's new. Last time we talked, you were still hung up. I'm not hung up. I still love her. But I'm starting to wonder if loving someone is enough reason to be with them. Deep thoughts for a Friday night. I laughed. Yeah, well, I've had a lot of time to think. A woman at the end of the bar smiled at me. Chris noticed. You could talk to her, you know? Nothing serious. Just conversation. I'm still married. You're separated. Still married. He shook his head, but didn't argue. We finished our drinks, and I went home to my empty apartment. The woman's smile had been nice, but it had also felt wrong. Like I was still wearing a ring, even though I'd taken it off months ago. The ring sat in a small dish on my nightstand. I looked at it sometimes, wondering when I'd put it back on, or if I ever would. Month 5 brought the first real test. Thanksgiving was coming, and both our families were asking questions. My mom called. Sweetheart, what's happening with Thanksgiving? Are you two coming together or separately? I hadn't told her about the separation. Neither had my wife, apparently. Mom, I need to tell you something. The conversation that followed was painful. My mother cried. My father got on the phone and asked if I'd tried counseling. I explained that this was what she needed, that I was respecting her wishes. But what do you need? My mother asked. It was a question I still didn't have a complete answer to. I need to figure that out, I told her. I ended up spending Thanksgiving with my brother's family. My wife went to her parents' house, 3 states away. We texted that morning. Happy Thanksgiving, she wrote. You too. Enjoy your family. You too. I helped my brother cook the turkey and played with my nieces and tried not to think about how this was the first major holiday we'd spent apart in 9 years. That night, back in my apartment, she called. Not texted. Called. Hey, I answered. Hey. Her voice sounded thick, like she'd been crying. You okay? Not really. Everyone kept asking about you. My mom kept saying she was sure we'd work it out. My dad pulled me aside and asked if you'd done something wrong. What did you tell him? That you hadn't. That this was my choice. She took a shaky breath. But sitting there today, at the table where you should have been, I kept thinking about all the Thanksgivings we've had together. Yeah, I said quietly. Me too. Remember the first one? When we tried to cook everything ourselves in that tiny apartment kitchen. I smiled despite myself. And we burned the rolls and undercooked the turkey. But we made the best mashed potatoes I've ever had. Your grandmother's recipe. Yeah. We sat in silence for a moment, connected by the phone and the weight of shared memories. I think I made a mistake, she whispered. My heart clenched. What do you mean? Asking you to leave. I thought I needed space to find myself, but all I found was empty rooms and silence. I closed my eyes. This was the moment I'd been both dreading and hoping for. How long have you been feeling this way? A while. Maybe since month 2. But I didn't want to admit it because I was the one who asked for this. That's not a good enough reason to come back, I said gently. What? Being lonely isn't a good enough reason. Missing what we had isn't enough either. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. The question is, I continued. Did you figure out what you were looking for? Did you find yourself? A long pause. I don't know, she admitted. I thought I would. I thought I'd take these months and discover some hidden part of myself that had been buried under being a wife. But mostly I just feel lost. Then you needed more time. What if more time doesn't help? What if I'm just broken? You're not broken, I said firmly. But you're right that time alone isn't enough. You need to actually do something with it. Like what? Like therapy. Like really digging into why you felt trapped. Like figuring out what you want from your life, not just from our marriage. Have you been doing that? She asked. Yeah, I said. I have. And what did you figure out? I leaned back in my chair, looking around my small apartment. At the plant on the windowsill. At the photos from my class pinned to the wall. At the running shoes by the door. I figured out that I'd stopped growing, I said. I was comfortable. Safe. I let our marriage become an excuse to stop challenging myself. I never asked you to stop growing. I know. But I did anyway. And that wasn't fair to either of us. She was quiet for a long time. So what happens now? She finally asked. Now you keep doing your thing. Your pottery class. Whatever else you need. And I keep doing mine. For how long? I don't know. Until we're both ready to have a real conversation about what kind of marriage we want. Not the one we had, but the one we'd build knowing what we know now. What if we can't build that? Then at least we'll know. And we can move forward accordingly. I heard her sniffle. I really do miss you. I miss you too. But I don't miss who we were together. Not yet. That's harsh. It's honest. Another long silence. Okay, she said finally. Okay, we keep doing our own things. Yeah. But can we talk more? Not just texts. Actually talk. I thought about it. Once a week, I said. Sunday evenings. We check in. Nothing heavy unless one of us needs it. Just stay connected. I'd like that. Me too. We said goodnight, and I sat in the dark for a long time afterward. I'd meant every word I said, but it still hurt. December came with snow and the weight of another holiday season. We kept to our Sunday evening calls. They were awkward at first, both of us dancing around deeper topics. But gradually, they became easier. She told me about her pottery class, how she'd finally made a bowl that didn't collapse. I told her about a photo I'd taken of frost on a window that the instructor had praised. We talked about work, about our families, about the weather. Surface things. Safe things. But underneath, there was a current of something else. A slow rebuilding of communication. Not as husband and wife, exactly. More like two people who'd once known each other well, learning to know each other again. Christmas was harder than Thanksgiving. We'd always made a big deal about Christmas. Matching pajamas. A tree we'd decorate together while drinking spiked cider. Stockings hung by a fireplace that didn't work but looked charming. This year, I bought a small tabletop tree and put it in my apartment. It felt sad and defiant at the same time. She sent me a photo of her tree. Full-sized, in the corner of what used to be our living room. Decorated it myself, her text said. Looks good, I replied. On Christmas Eve, she called instead of waiting for Sunday. I know this isn't our regular night, she said. But I wanted to hear your voice. It's okay. I'm glad you called. What are you doing tomorrow? Brother's house. You. Parents again. They're flying in. That'll be nice. Yeah. I could hear music in the background. Christmas carols. Are you listening to Bing Crosby? I asked. She laughed. Guilty. I know you always hated this album. I never hated it. I just thought we could find something less cliché. Well, you're not here to complain, so I'm playing it on repeat. Rebel. We both laughed, and for a moment, it felt almost normal. Almost like before. But not quite. I got you something, she said suddenly. What? A Christmas present. I know we didn't talk about doing gifts this year, but I saw something and thought of you. You didn't have to do that. I know, but I wanted to. I got you something too, I admitted. I'd seen a book on pottery techniques at a bookstore and couldn't resist. Great minds, she said softly. Want to exchange them? In person, my heart rate picked up. Yeah, I'd like that. Day after Christmas? That coffee shop we used to go to. The one with the good scones? That's the one. Okay, 2 o'clock. Perfect. We hung up and I stared at my phone. This would be the first time I'd seen her in person in over 5 months. I was nervous, excited, terrified, all at once. The day after Christmas was cold and clear. I arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes early and ordered my usual. Black coffee, no sugar. She walked in at exactly 2 o'clock. She was wearing a green sweater I didn't recognize and her hair was shorter. She'd cut it to her shoulders. It looked good. Hi, she said, approaching the table. Hi. We hugged awkwardly. She smelled different. New perfume. We sat down and I slid a wrapped package across the table. She did the same. You first, I said. She opened it carefully, the way she always did, trying not to rip the paper. When she saw the book, her face lit up. This is perfect. There's a section in here I've been wanting to learn about. I thought you might like it. She pushed her package toward me. I opened it to find a nice camera strap. Leather, with my initials embossed on it. For your photography, she explained. I know you're using the basic one that came with the camera. This is really nice, I said, running my finger over the leather. Thank you. We sipped our drinks in silence for a moment. You cut your hair, I said. Yeah, needed a change. It suits you. Thanks. You look different too. Thinner. Healthier. I've been running. I can tell. More silence. This is weird, she said finally. Yeah. I don't know how to talk to you anymore. We've been doing okay on the phone. It's different in person. I can see you. I can see everything I gave up. I took a breath. Is that what this is? You seeing what you gave up? No. Maybe. I don't know. She twisted her hands around her coffee cup. I thought I'd have all the answers by now. That's what everyone keeps asking. If I figured things out. Have you? Some things. I figured out that I was afraid. Of what? Of disappearing. Of becoming just your wife instead of myself. I nodded slowly. And now I think I was already disappearing, and I blamed you for it instead of taking responsibility for my own life. The honesty in her words hit me hard. I did the same thing, I admitted. I let myself coast. Stop trying. Figured being married meant I didn't have to work as hard at being interesting or engaged. We both messed up. Yeah. She looked at me directly. I want to come home. There it was. The words I'd been waiting for and dreading in equal measure. I'm not sure that's a good idea, I said carefully. Her face fell. Why not? Because you're lonely. Because the holidays are hard. Because being apart is harder than you thought it would be. Those aren't good enough reasons. What about because I love you? Is that good enough? You loved me when you asked me to leave too. She flinched. That's not fair. It's true though. Love doesn't fix what's broken. We both know that now. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. So what? We're just done? You're giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm saying we're not ready. You're not ready. How do you know what I'm ready for? Because if you were ready, you wouldn't be asking to come home. You'd be asking to build something new together. She wiped at her tears with her napkin. I don't understand the difference. Coming home means going back to what we had. Building something new means acknowledging that the old version of our marriage is dead and we need to create a different one. I reached across the table and took her hand. I love you, I said. I do, but I don't want to go back to the way things were. Do you? She shook her head slowly. No, but I don't know how to go forward either. Then we keep doing what we're doing. We keep growing separately until we know what we want to grow into together. What if we grow apart instead? Then that's our answer. She pulled her hand back and stood up. I can't do this. I can't sit here and pretend like this is okay. Then don't, I said gently. Be honest about how you feel. I feel like I ruined everything. Her voice rose slightly, and a few people turned to look. I feel like I asked for something I didn't really want because I was scared and stupid, and now I've lost you. You haven't lost me. Haven't I? You just said no to me coming home. I said not yet. That's different from no. She stared at me, her eyes red and puffy. I need to go, she said. Okay. I'll call you Sunday. Okay. She grabbed her book and walked out. I sat there for a long time, my coffee going cold. Part of me wanted to run after her. To tell her yes, come home, we'd figure it out. But I knew that would be a mistake. We'd fall back into old patterns. Comfortable. Safe. Slowly suffocating. I paid for our drinks and walked home through the snow. January arrived like a reset button. New year. New possibilities. Our Sunday calls continued, though she was quieter than before. I didn't push. I was working with a therapist now. Something I probably should have done months ago. Dr. Chun was in her 50s, no nonsense, and had a way of asking questions that forced me to confront things I'd been avoiding. Why did you leave so easily? She asked during one session. She asked me to. That's not what I asked. Why didn't you fight for your marriage? I thought about it. Because fighting would have been about what I wanted, not what she needed. And what you wanted didn't matter. It mattered. But she was drowning. I could see it in her eyes. So you're a martyr? No. I'm someone who loves his wife enough to let her breathe. Dr. Chun leaned back in her chair. Here's what I'm hearing. You made yourself small in your marriage. You stopped having needs, stopped taking up space. And when she asked you to leave, it confirmed what you already believed about yourself. Which is, that you're not worth fighting for. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you fought for something you wanted? I couldn't answer. She let the silence sit. You're doing good work here, she said finally. Learning to take care of yourself, developing interests, growing as a person. But at some point, you're going to have to decide if you're worth fighting for. And if your marriage is. I thought about that conversation for days. Was I worth fighting for? I'd never really considered the question. In February, my wife called on a Tuesday instead of Sunday. I need to tell you something, she said. My stomach dropped. Okay. I started therapy. Real therapy, not just the pottery class and self-help books. That's good, I said carefully. It is. And my therapist asked me something that I can't stop thinking about. What's that? She asked me what I wanted from life. Not from our marriage, not from being a wife. From life. What did you say? I couldn't answer. I realized I've spent so long defining myself through relationships, through what other people needed from me, that I forgot to figure out what I actually want. She took a shaky breath. I'm starting to figure it out now. And it's scary. What are you figuring out? That I want to go back to school. I had 2 years left on my degree when we got married, and I never finished. I'd forgotten about that. She'd been studying social work, had put it on hold when we got engaged. That's amazing, I said. Is it? It means more time apart. Another year, maybe 2. And it's not fair to ask you to wait that long. I'm not going anywhere, I heard myself say. How do you know? Because I'm figuring out what I want to. And one of those things is still you. Just a different version of us. She was quiet for a long moment. I miss you, she said. I miss you too. Can we try something? What? Can we go on a date? Like a real date. Not coffee to exchange presents. An actual date where we get dressed up and have dinner and remember why we fell in love in the first place. I smiled. I'd like that. Next Saturday? Yeah. I'll pick you up at 7. You'll pick me up from our house. Your house, I corrected gently. For now, anyway. Okay. My house. 7 o'clock. We hung up and I sat there grinning like an idiot. Saturday arrived with a flutter of nerves I hadn't felt in years. I bought a new shirt, got a haircut, showed up at the house at exactly 7 with flowers. She opened the door in a blue dress I'd never seen before. She looked stunning. Hi, she breathed. Hi yourself. I handed her the flowers. These are beautiful. Not as beautiful as you. She blushed. Are you trying to romance me? Maybe. Is it working? Maybe. We went to a restaurant we'd never been to before. Neutral territory. No memories to navigate. Over dinner, we talked. Really talked. About her plans for school. About my photography, which I was thinking about pursuing more seriously. About the lives we'd been building separately. I'm proud of you, I said. For what? For doing the hard work. For going to therapy, for figuring out what you want. I'm proud of you too, she said. You could have been angry. Could have made this whole thing bitter and difficult. But you didn't. I thought about it, I admitted. But anger takes energy. And I needed that energy to work on myself. She reached across the table and took my hand. Do you think we can make this work? Eventually. I think we're both becoming people who could make something work. Whether that's together or apart, I don't know yet. That's honest. It's all I've got. We finished dinner and I drove her home. Stood with her on the porch in the cold. Thank you for tonight, she said. Thank you for asking. She looked up at me, and for a moment, I thought she might kiss me. Instead, she hugged me, long and tight. Good night, she whispered. Good night. I drove back to my apartment feeling lighter than I had in months. March brought the 6-month mark. Mr. Peterson's magic timeline. Don't make any big decisions for at least 6 months. I ran into him one morning, and he smiled knowingly. How's it going, son? Good, actually. Really good. And the wife? We're dating again. Taking it slow. He nodded approvingly. Smart. You're building a new foundation. That's the hope. Want some more free advice? Always. Don't rush to move back in together. When you do, make sure it's to a new place. Fresh start. No ghosts. I thought about our house. The one I'd walked out of 6 months ago. He was right. That place was haunted by who we used to be. Good advice, I said. 30 years as a marriage counselor. He reminded me with a wink. April turned into May. We went on dates every week. Sometimes dinner. Sometimes just walks in the park. Once, we went to a pottery show where some of her classwork was displayed. I stood in front of her piece, a vase with clean lines and a beautiful glaze. This is incredible, I said. You think so? I know so. You found your thing. She squeezed my hand. You found yours too. I saw those photos you posted online. The one of the abandoned house was hauntingly beautiful. Thanks. We were learning each other again. The new versions. The people we'd become in the space between leaving and returning. In June, almost a full year after she'd asked me to leave, we had the conversation. We were sitting by a lake, watching the sunset. I got into the program, she said. Social work? Yeah. Starts in September. Congratulations. That's huge. It is. And I wanted to talk to you about something. Okay. I don't want to move back into the house. I looked at her. Yeah. That place is the old US. And I don't want to go back to being the old US. What do you want? She turned to face me fully. I want to find a new place. Together. Something that's ours, built on who we are now. But only if you want that too. I took her hands. I want that. But I need to know you're sure. That you're not just doing this because you're scared to be alone. I'm not scared to be alone anymore, she said firmly. I've been alone. I've learned I can handle it. But handling something and wanting it are two different things. What do you want? I want a partner. An equal partner. Someone who challenges me and grows with me and doesn't let me disappear into being half of something. I want that too. Can you be that person? She asked. Because I need you to promise me you'll keep being you. Keep your photography. Keep your running. Keep growing. Don't go back to being the guy who was just content to coast. I promise. If you promise me you'll keep being you. Keep school. Keep pottery. Keep pushing yourself. Deal. We shook hands solemnly, then laughed at the formality of it. So we're really doing this? She asked. We're really doing this. But we're doing it right this time. New apartment. New apartment. 2 bedrooms. Why 2? Because we both need space to be ourselves. A bedroom for us, and a spare room that we split. Half for your art, half for my photography. Her eyes widened. I love that. We go to couples counseling. Absolutely. And we keep our individual therapy. Agreed. And if either of us starts to feel like we're disappearing, we say something immediately. Deal. She kissed me then. Our first kiss in almost a year. It felt like coming home and stepping into something new all at the same time. We found an apartment in August. Third floor of a converted factory building. Exposed brick, huge windows, enough space to breathe. We moved in together in September. Her school stuff in one corner. My camera equipment in another. Our lives intertwined but not entangled. It wasn't perfect. We still had fights. Still had moments where old patterns tried to creep back in. But we caught them now. Called them out. Worked through them. On our first night in the new apartment, we sat on the floor surrounded by boxes. Happy? I asked. Yeah, she said. Terrified, but happy. Good terrified or bad terrified? Good. The kind that means we're taking a risk worth taking. I pulled her close. Thank you, I said. For what? For asking me to leave. For being brave enough to say you needed space. She looked up at me. Thank you for respecting that. For not making it a fight. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I know, but it was the right thing. We sat there as the sun set through our new windows, casting long shadows across our new beginning. The independence had been heavy. Heavier than either of us had imagined. But it had taught us how to stand on our own 2 feet. And now, standing together felt like a choice. Not a requirement. Not a default. A choice we made every day to build something better than what we'd had before. The ring I'd kept on my nightstand for a year found its way back onto my finger. But it meant something different now. Not a symbol of ownership or completion. A symbol of commitment to growth. To challenging each other. To never taking each other for granted again. We weren't the same people who'd said, I do 8 years ago. We were better. Stronger. More whole. And this time, we were building a life together instead of just living one.